For this test I used vanilla JavaScript, which means I didn't use any external libraries or framework to build the app. I used HTML and CSS to create the layout and styling of the app, and JavaScript to handle the logic of the timer and user interaction. So now let's take a closer look at the code for the stopwatch app. First, we have the HTML structure, which defines the layout and content of the app. In this case, we have a container element with the heading, a timer display, and a set of buttons for controlling the timer. Now this is a header element that contains the title of the page, and the title of the page is stopwatch app. Now this is container element that is used to group and organize other element related to the stopwatch feature. And this is a div element that contains the stopwatch display with the initial value of 000000. It also includes the CSS class panel heading, which will apply specific styles to the element. This is the container element that is used to group and organize other elements related to the stopwatch feature. Okay. After that, these are buttons element that allow the user to control the stopwatch feature. Each buttons include a CSS class that will apply specific styles to the element. And now for the CSS part. So for the user interface, I use CSS to create a simple and clean design with a gray and white color scheme to evoke the image of a traditional stopwatch. I also use Bootstrap, a popular CSS framework, to add some additional styling and functionalities such as button styles and responsive layout. Now come to the main part of this code, that is JavaScript code. So this is for simple stopwatch app that uses the DOM to interact with HTML element, where DOM is document object model. So the code starts by selecting the specific HTML elements and using the document.query selector method and assigning them to a constant variable. Then the app that defines some variables that will be used to keep the track of the elapsed time and state of the stopwatch, whether it is running or not. The app defines three functions that are used to stop and reset the stopwatch. First, state timer function. The function starts by timer by setting the running variables to true and setting up an interval that increment the seconds. So the function also check if a minute has elapsed and increment the minutes variable if it has. It also check if an hour has elapsed and increment the hour variables if it has. Finally, the functions updates the display with the current elapsed time in hour, minutes and second using the inner HTML property of the display unit. Second is stop timer function. This function stops the timer by setting the running variable to false and clearing the interval set up by start timer function using the clear interval methods. Third is reset timer. The function resets the timer by setting the running variables to false, clearing the interval set up by start timer, and function using the clear interval methods and is setting the seconds, minutes and hours variables to 0. It also updates the display with the reset time of 000000. The app then adds event listener to the start, stop and reset button using the add event listener methods. When the start button is clicked, the app check if the stopwatch is not already running and calls the start timer functions to start it. When the stop button is clicked, the app check if the stopwatch is running and calls the stop timer functions to stop it. When the reset button is clicked, the app calls the reset timer function to reset the stop. In summary, this app uses JavaScript to interact with HTML element and